when you walk into the room with Mario Lemieux, Joe Sakic, and Gretzky's the manager of the team, and Pat Quinn is a coach, and you just walk into that room, and it's Scott Niedermayer. Just the list goes down the list, guys that you grew up watching. That's pretty special.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 15th episode of the Underrated Podcast, the podcast where we talk to you about sports and rant about a bunch of stuff that we think should be ranted about. Today, we have a special guest. He is a former NHL defenseman for the Sharks, Avs, Caps, Flames, and Preds, and he played 1,055 games in the NHL. Scott Hannan. How are you, Scott? Thank you for coming on.
Good, guys. Thanks for having me. How you guys doing?
Not bad, and it's what an honor to have an NHL legend on the podcast.
I appreciate that. I haven't heard the name and legend used in the same sentence, but it's nice to hear. Thanks, guys.
So it's obviously kind of new to us to have somebody like you on. We've had guys like James Duthie come on. We actually recently had Jeff Merrick on yesterday, and he said that you were one of the most underrated defensemen in NHL history. And do you think that is because you were a defensive defenseman? And quite often, those types of players don't get enough credit for what they do in their game?
Yeah, I think that can happen sometimes. You're overlooked because it's not quite as glamorous as scoring the goals or rushing the puck up the end of the ice. And when my career started, I played sort of in a different era back in the pre-lockout where there was a little bit more hooking and holding and defense was maybe a little bit more, up in the forefront. And, lately, which is the game's changed a lot. Guys are fast, putting the puck in the net all the time, a ton of skill. And I think the game is in some ways changed for a better. And I think it's always easy to look at the score sheet and see the guys that have put the puck in the net and scored the goals and to see some of the guys in the background that, there's 20 guys on a team and a lot of them put in a lot of effort to make the other guys, sometimes take the limelight. Yeah, sometimes overlooked, but, I didn't mind. I etched myself out a pretty good career, got to play a long time in a lot of great cities, and had a lot of fun along the way.
And if you want people to remember Scott Hannan, the hockey player, what would you want them to remember?
A guy that came to work every night. I mean, that's the big thing. I prided myself on that, especially late in my career. You went into teams and you worked hard. You were a good leader for young guys. I was lucky enough to get to come back and finish my career in San Jose and, provide leadership. They had some young guys on defense that, per se, you take them under your wing, show them the ropes, because that's one of the toughest things to learn. Sometimes a career lasting 8, 9, 10 years. I'm not saying that that's easy, but it's the ones that last a long time. You really have to come at it from all angles. I started my career as, a top 2 defenseman, top number 1 defenseman even. And, finish my career as a 6th defenseman in a different role, in a different capacity. And it's tough to stick around that long. You got to kind of change the way you approach the game. And a lot of it happens away from the game.
Yeah. I'm just going to kind of add on to that. I actually, you mentioned a bit earlier also that there are a lot that the game used to be very again, like oh my God, I'm trying to find the word. Like you said, like hooking and holding and all that, and just very down on defense. And I actually do agree with what you're kind of saying. I do think that like the right amount of team, and the team that really can grow a dynasty and win kind of a lot of those championships that a lot of people want to win, for me, isn't just, putting the pucks in the net and getting them in. Is like a team that shows up to work and it's just there. They're very well defensive. They're very good all around.
I agree with you totally. I mean, I think you saw kind of the game switch a little bit, and it took a long time for teams to catch up as far as, everybody plays 4 lines. Maybe that big grinding lines are kind of, you got to have 4 lines that can score, and it's really tough. It's now about suppressing shots. It's now about taking the puck and being able to keep it out of your net. You look at some of the best teams right now, their ability to keep the puck out of the net. It's not always about trying to outscore teams by, 5-4, 6-4. When you get a couple goals, when you score 3 goals, you should be able to win that game. And suppressing shots, getting back, 5 guys back on defense. Back even at the beginning, when I'll go back to that and say when I played, it was, the defense played defense, the forwards play this, and you see the way guys work away from the puck and come back. A prime example is a guy like Joe Thornton. You see the effort he puts, speaking from San Jose, that he puts in the back check, coming back, working hard, playing hard in his own end. And that's key to be able to win and longevity in this league.
Yeah. So I think you've already mentioned this before, but I kind of want you to go in depth in it more. How did the game evolve from when you started in 97 and ended in 16? How did it change a lot?
In the lockout in 2004, when they really changed the rules, I think that really catapulted a big difference in the game. You look at it now, before it was, for me even, I played at 225 pre-lockout, and I got myself all the way down to playing my last years at like 214 because you couldn't carry that extra weight. It was about speed. And when they take things out like hooking and holding, the fact that you couldn't get in front of guys when they dump the puck in, which creates a lot more speed, but also creates a lot more, high impact hitting, which you're seeing now where, defensemen are going back for the puck and sometimes they can get creamed pretty good. Whereas before, I used to be able to get in front. And if my D partner got hit, it was almost my fault because I could go over there and get an interference. So the ability to hook and to hold, play defense, really that trap that was brought in from New Jersey. And now guys are so fast. And you saw some teams jumped into it quick. You saw Tampa Bay, few teams that they built their team with 4 lines. And other teams, it took them a little while. And I think after LA won those championships was probably the last really big team to really grind it out. Now, guys got to be quick. You got to be able to move out there. And I think you're slowly seeing that in the skill. Guys like Johnny Gaudreau, I'm not going to say they're not great players, but I'm not sure some of those guys would have had trouble playing pre-lockout because of just how big and physical the game was.
Yeah, I especially agree with that kind of LA point. LA was very big. They were mean. They had the ability to kind of like easily almost bully you into them winning the game. And now, especially, you're seeing a team like, oh God, I'm gonna throw it back to you right here, Washington. Washington for me was very four-dimensional. They had almost kind of every point locked down. They had power play, defense, goaltending, offense, everything. And I look at a team like Toronto, for example, is very two-dimensional, having scoring on top two and then kind of nothing else to their ability.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show you that you really do have to have a full complement of players. You really need to have 4 lines that could come at you and roll, which allows you to play mismatches. I mean, you take example, I don't get to see many teams out in the East very much just due to the travel and everything, but Toronto, they got some top end talent. And sometimes when you can have 4 lines that can come at you in different ways, and you can peel your first line off and play them against the fourth because your third can handle a few shifts against the top line. That's what you really notice in playoff hockey, which separates sometimes the good teams from the great teams, that ability to force those mismatches and not get played out. You look at like Boston, one of the reasons why they're so dominant. Yes, obviously that Marchand line is so good, but you look at that fourth line, you can throw them out there and they can hem the puck in the offensive zone against top-end talent, and that allows Bergeron to be played against other lines. It just opens you up for so many different weapons.
You've played with, you played with a lot of players in your career, playing over 1,000 games, of course. Have you ever been starstruck kind of walking into a dressing room?
2004, I got to play at the World Cup for Team Canada. So when you walk into the room with Mario Lemieux, Joe Sakic, and Gretzky's the manager of the team, and Pat Quinn is a coach, and you just walk into that room and it's Scott Niedermayer, just the list goes down the list, guys that you grew up watching. That's pretty special to be able to do that. I got the chance to do that. We won gold in Toronto. That was a pretty big eye-opener for me. I got to play with Joe Sakic in Colorado as well, and there's a guy that I grew up watching, Burnaby guy. I grew up in Surrey, out in British Columbia. So those are pretty cool moments for me.
Now, you were talking about playing in Colorado, playing in, of course, Nashville and all that. But which team did you kind of enjoy playing for the most in your career?
Right here in San Jose. I mean, I broke in here. I got to start my career, really set my foot in the NHL. I was lucky enough to get to come back late in my career. Not to say that I didn't have some great times, and Colorado was a great experience. Got to play in Washington with Ovechkin, and and Nicholas Backstrom and those guys right prior to when they really took off and started. They were a dominant team, but never could win, sort of get over the hump in the playoffs. But, ideally, it's got to be San Jose. It's the place I played the longest, the most games, and I have a real tie to the community, which makes it really special.
And I believe you do hold one of the 5 greatest moments in San Jose Sharks history. I think that was in 2006, the playoffs. The penalty kill I read about when you dove down to block a shot on a 5-on-3 and you pushed the puck out. So is that kind of like yeah, I've been in the city, like everybody loves me in the city, and that's why it's kind of where I feel home, at least, could you say?
Yeah, there's special moments. There's always something, a special attachment to a place you get drafted in. We have a long-standing GM, Doug Wilson. There's ties to the community. You meet your friends. I met my wife here. We have 2 boys that play hockey. There definitely is those ties to the community. I work for NBC Sports now, and we cover the team as far as their pre and post game. There's just so many levels. I love living here. It's on the West Coast, close to British Columbia, easy flight for my family down. But then you touch on those points where you're a part of the history here too. Like that 5-on-3 penalty kill. It was we started really. You saw guys, and maybe it's a little old for you guys, but Brian Marchment and Gary Suter and guys that when I first came in, it was a real turning point for Sharks to be when they became not the expansion team anymore, but they started to become a team to be competing for the Stanley Cup, and we beat the Colorado Avalanche in the playoffs one year to set it, and we played the Flames in the Western Conference Final. And these were special moments that I was able to be a part of, and you look at how long that the Sharks haven't been able to win the Cup, but they've been a playoff-bound team for I think it was 10 or 12 years, and they've had the most playoff games played since I believe 2000 or something like that. I can't remember the name or the number right off the top of my head. It's cool to be a part of that type of history.
I think it was. I read back on the history of the Sharks kind of through the playoffs, and that Flames mention when you knocked off the Flames and Avalanche. I think it was. I forget what time it was, but I think didn't they knock Detroit off at some point when Detroit was in like their prime years of
that was
dominance.
Yeah, that was really early. That was 96, Jamie Baker's goal, and Andre Zuzin had a big goal where they knocked him out. That was a little bit before me, but again, those types of moments, they beat Detroit. But our big one when we played, it was probably knocking off Colorado when they had Sakic and Forsberg and Foote, and that was in a 0-4. We ended up losing to Calgary, but it was still a big moment for us.
And we know you mentioned your involvement now with NBC Sports, and then we also know that you're a business consultant for Cav Sports too. And we read up on Cav Sports, and they recently 3D printed a hockey helmet. Can you explain to us and the listeners kind of the technology and the purpose behind that helmet?
Well, right there, you kind of nailed it. At the end of my career, we all know about the issue with hockey and concussions and the things that are coming to light. And I would be lying to say that it didn't worry me. I had concussions over my career, and it was always something I tried to focus on. And being here in Silicon Valley, I was approached by a company just to take a look at the helmet and to see. And I got into a long discussion with the owner, Whitman Kwok, and it was just something that was really cool and really special to see right from the start. And it's a 3D printed helmet that, in early testing and testing right now, as far as frontal impacts and rotational impacts, is 9 times safer. And if you look at the helmets that are put out nowadays, the foam that they use inside them and the fact that they can open up from small, extra large, it takes away a lot of the safety of them. And we're out here to protect heads. My kids wear them. I think they're extremely comfortable helmet. And right there, a lot of helmets don't fit heads right, and that's probably one of the most dangerous things that moving around. And these are essentially custom fitted helmets to a sense. I won't get into the technicalities of it, but basically there's so many different sizes that it'll fit perfectly to the head, and we're out here to protect kids, protect people's heads, and that's the most important thing. So if you're looking at a top end helmet, Cav Sports is a place to go at it.
And was there something that maybe sparked that like you were like, hey, I need to get into this. Like, I want to prevent concussions and further maybe from where your kids are?
Yeah, I think when I was done and I came, and again, it just happened organically. I want to say, like, I was able to, I'm down at the rink a lot. I teach a learn to skate program for kids that get on the ice the first time. And so I'm down there a lot, and I ended up running into Curtis Brown, another player, and he said, come on, you got to check out this meeting that I'm having with this guy. And we talked. And like I said, I sat down with the owner for over an hour and a half. It was something that I was always interested in as far as protection. And sometimes, to be honest, it just wasn't available, even at the NHL level, to have. And it's amazing to think you can have carbon 3D printed helmet or a custom fit helmet. We have all these sticks that are so, highly advanced. You can shoot the puck that much harder, and now guys skate that much faster with all their skates. But helmets really hadn't taken that next step yet, and it had. You're starting to see it in football and a lot of these other sports. So I'm glad it's starting to enter into hockey, and hopefully we can start protecting guys just a little bit better.
And do you think those 3D helmets will maybe be noticed by something like the NHL, and they'll start, like, maybe some players in the future will start using them? Maybe like the guys that are maybe future NHL draft picks will start using those helmets going into the NHL?
Yeah, I think so. I think once you prove the science, and if you can prove to guys that you can protect them and you make it that much more special, I think it would be, I don't want to say it would be stupid of players not to take it seriously, because if you can sit there and say that takes games played off the, you can minimize games off the ice because of injury, because if you can protect guys that much better, it would be smart for players and teams to look at these type of situations where you can limit guys being out of the game, because that's the most important thing.
And now that you have, finished your career in a couple years ago, is there somebody that maybe now you're looking at that you say, maybe this guy was maybe, for instance, a reincarnation of my play, like something big maybe on the Sharks that you like to see, you like to watch play, let's say?
Yeah, the Sharks. I'm watching the Sharks a lot here when I see them play, and then Mario Ferraro is a young kid on that team that he moves the puck really well. He's a good skater, great kid. Met him a few times, and I like the way he plays. And like I said, the game's changing so much. I think the guys that are coming into the league are so much more skilled with the training they do compared to what it used to be. And there's a guy that I think has a bright future in this league and a bright future with the Sharks.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast again. It's a huge honor to have an NHL legend on here. We're just trying to grow, and we thank you so much for coming on.
Right on. Good luck, boys. Great job today.
Thank you so much.